Hi Vogue Korea, I'm Alexander.
And I'm Matthias.
And we're both architects living here in Copenhagen. And welcome to our house.
This apartment belongs to my uncle, so I've known it my entire life. And at one time he was moving out and we said we would love to stay here because we love the area and we love how different it is compared to most Copenhagen apartments.
We live in an old warehouse. It used to be like a grain storage facility in the 1700s.
And when we just moved in, we felt like it was very brown and very heavy, like these pine wood walls and stuff like that. And we were talking about covering it up when we just moved in, but slowly we learned to love them. In the end, we gave up and we went all the way buying almost only furnitures in wood.
Mm-hmm. And especially because no one else around Copenhagen has an apartment that looks like this. Because most people, whenever they take over a place, they strip everything and they start from scratch. But because we haven't been doing this, then suddenly this is just a new type of originality or a new type of authenticity that's present here.
Yeah, so we kept it as a kind of time capsule. Mm. So welcome to our lounging space, or living room, or what you want to call it. This is where we spend a lot of our time when we are home. We are reading in the couch or we are entertaining guests.
There's actually some hidden right there. Yeah, we are finding it hard to really fall in love with lamps or lights, especially suspended lights. They are a very like a stereotypical dining room thing to have a big lamp above the dining table, and then everything is gathered around that, and then it's super non-flexible. It's then once you've positioned this lamp there, this is where it's gonna be, and that's where the table is gonna be, and we don't really like that.
Also, there's a big movement towards like very sculptural lamps, which of course is amazing if you like sculptural lamps, and we do like some of them. But I also think that they are often not the best lamp and not the best sculpture. As you can see, we really like the lamps of Noguchi, which is these very humble lamps made out of paper. You could call that a sculptural light, but it's also made by an actual artist.
And they're super mobile. You can just move them around once you need to move them.
And they have this poetic quality, being almost like a lantern or something more temporary than this big glass and steel object that many lamps are today. It's an old piece of walnut wood that we got from an artist that we worked with, and then we use it to kind of have this ever-changing setting of small treasures that we find. So it's everything from a Neolithic stone axe to a Roman silver coin. This is like stones collected at the beach, to like a small sculpture by a Danish artist called Sonja Fallow Mankova.
But it's fun to mix up like some of the cheapest thing in the home, like actual free objects from the beach, and then some of the more exclusive objects, like the sculpture.
Do you have a favorite item?
No, but I think you do.
I do. Yeah. I love my little
yes, that's what
my little salt cellar made by a Danish jeweler called Arje Grigst, and I inherited it from a good friend. So it has a prominent position right here.
So we are standing in front of our Baroque cabinet.
One of the big challenges living in a small apartment is to have all your stuff, but not that it feels too filled with stuff. So this is a way to create a little more serenity around some of the objects, so it's not just cluster everywhere.
It's also a way to showcase some of the more extraordinary things that we own.
One of them is like two ceramics by a Danish artist called Axel Salto, who was very influential in the 30s and 40s and 50s in Denmark. And one of them I recently inherited by a good friend. For me, it also holds that story about friendship. And also we have this collection of Egyptian pots that was used to have coal in, so you used to put it under your eyes. And then we have it together with like this Roman sculpture. It's just lovely to surround yourself with like really old objects like this up, and you can also go to the National Museum and see the exact same kind of thing.
It's a lot of scrolling on auction houses.
Yeah, trying to find things.
It's a full-time job.
It's fun to find the pearl in all the
rubbish.
Rubbish, yeah. Or it's important to find something that isn't something extremely valuable. It's just something that speaks to you. It's more about the connection with the objects than the actual value, because nothing is really valuable. Welcome to our dining room.
So we have this leaf-shaped table by Pierre Chapeau, and something that's special about our dining room, I think, is that we don't really use chairs. We use stools instead.
Yeah, but we do have chairs though. We just keep them around a little more randomly, so that if you need a chair, you can have a chair. And these are chairs that we really like. For instance, we're really fond of the Swedish designer called Axel Einar Hjort, who, for instance, created this one. We treat them as art pieces. Instead of having everything as a functional piece where you have 10 or 12 of each thing, we just like to have them as pieces of art.
Yeah, so it's never about decorating or about figuring out what is needed at this specific spot in the house. It's the other way around. You identify a piece, an object, and then once you have it, you can say, oh, maybe it'll go here.
That's another thing. When you buy that way, you end up having a lot of stuff that you can't put anywhere. So we actually have quite a big collection that is kept in our office. We will use one day when we have the right space for it, but we cannot just fill up this tiny apartment with stuff, then it will not be very nice to live here.
So this is our combined corridor/library space. I know it's a bit much to call it a library, but we've furnished it with very tight packing of books here, so it almost feels like it's a library.
We had quite a lot of books, and then instead of filling the bigger space in there with all the books and making it feel more stuffy, we thought, why not take this already narrow hallway and use it for the books, because then it's kind of makes that feeling of passing through a narrow space even more intense. And what's your favorite book?
I don't know what my favorite. I don't do favorites. I do. An artist I really like. He's a German photographer called Thomas Demand. I guess he's a lot of architects' favorite artist because he works very architecturally in a way. He creates these pictures that are recreations of like press photographies, but then they're remade all in paper. So it's like an architectural model, but then in full scale.
One of my favorite books will be like this by the photographer Peter Hujar, who's an artist I really love. And this book in particular is a really rare find, where he takes pictures from the catacombs of Naples and Paris. So it's these pictures, portraits you could say, of bodies and also of living people. And I think it's just a really beautiful juxtaposition between the living and the death and the memento mori that holds within.
We're in our kitchen now, which is quite small.
I think a good thing about this space is that it's kind of in the living room because of this wall dividing it. So whenever we have guests, you feel like part of the conversation, even though you are in the kitchen preparing the dishes, which is actually pretty great. This ball is by a Danish ceramist called Gertrud Væsegård. Her work is very like simple and very thin and very in a way ornamented. She always have these like patterns and lines and small things. So she kind of draws on like traditional, for instance, Chinese patterns or Asian patterns, and she's one of the Danish modernist ceramists that works the best with the ornament, I think, whereas many of the other ceramists from that era kind of abandon the ornament and makes everything very plain and very simple. In a way, I prefer having all these functions filled by stuff that you care about instead of investing in a very expensive piece of art or something and then having everything else be just functional. I think it's nicer to incorporate these things so that you get a nice experience by using it and in your everyday life.
We are in the bedroom.
We are.
This one, it's so it's an old American quilt. Well, something that's really sad though is that we like to have like this huge stack of quilts, and then this one was on top, and then it was in the sun, and so this entire area got extremely bleached from the sun, which is
make us sad every time we
mistake. Yeah, so that's why we fold it over. In the quilts themselves, they are sort of made the same way we like to approach everything else, in that it's a collection or collage of different things from different eras. So,
but this one, for instance, it's really fun because I found it in an antique shop, and then when I brought it home, I realized that each small area, it actually stated where it's from. So someone has been writing the name of this is aunt, this and that's a wedding dress,
and there's a story to each patch, the same way we like to have a story for each small object in our house.
And I also think it's really cute that someone took the time to write this down, because these names mean nothing to us, but still they open up the imagination of a story there.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a quilt. Warm would be one.
That's true. I have a word that's maybe a little more highbrow in a way, but I like to
test it out.
No, I want to say like temporality, because we've been living here for 8 years. Some things were things we did 8 years ago. Some things are things we brought in yesterday. And I love to have all these different time periods in our life together here be present at the same time. So it's sort of like you keep on adding layers and writing.
This is something we also
over
work with when we do interiors professionally.
Yeah.
It's not too polished and not too sleek, but it shows who you are and who lives here.
Thank you so much for stopping by our house, Vogue Korea. It's been a pleasure having you, showing you all our fun things that we have here in the home. And we hope to see you in Seoul sometime soon. Bye.
안녕.